For many years, we've developed our portfolio based upon free projects. That's people giving up their time for free to help build their portfolio as well as ours. It's now time to take that on. We need to start paying people, we need to start creating jobs. Wasteland took a long time to actually produce. That's mainly because we didn't use many people, because we were very aware we had to keep budgets small and tight. Now we need to kick that on, and we need to be able to employ more people to get a quicker job done so that the film makes a return on its investment.
Wasteland was a crew of 3 or 4 people doing a lot of the work outside of working hours, bitting and bobbing. Most of the starts were 6 o'clock in the morning till 9:30 in the morning, and then we all went off onto our day jobs and also working weekends. With Ratcatcher, the situation is totally different. We're going to have 5-week shooting block working solidly throughout that time, so we can't rely on people giving their time to us outside of their working life.
By successfully funding this project, we'll be creating around 50 jobs. That's for people like set designers, runners, artistic directors, right the way through to what you see on camera, the extras and the actual cast members as well. We need the expertise to make sure that this film is of top-notch quality, but also that it's done in a time-efficient manner.
The reason that we're doing it in a 5-week block is so that we can get the film made, edited and ready for festivals later on in the year, and taking it to Cannes next year.
Believe it or not, we get next to nothing. We get enough to cover our costs personally, and that's about it. Everything else goes into the production to make sure that it makes the money that we need it to make the next film and to make this one a success.
The people who are going to benefit from the money that we raise on this Indiegogo campaign are people who are already in the industry, but maybe not having a huge amount of work because there's not that many films being made, especially not in the Midlands.
As well as the personnel costs involved in this film, there are also a lot of consumable costs as well. We've got set design, we've got location costs, we've got things like catering. After all, everybody does need to be fed.
There's also things like accommodation for people who are coming from further afield. They will need to stay in hotels nearby. So there's going to be a huge logistical challenge in making this film, but also this is where the money's going.
My job is to control the costs. Everybody wants to spend a fortune on this film, but I've got to make sure that we keep costs tight. That means we have to stick to a budget. The director wants to spend all the money in the world. We don't have that. We've got to keep things really, really cheap, as well as keeping them of a very high quality. Before I joined Light Films 6 years ago, my background was purely business management. That means I looked at profit and loss and what it took to get there. That means that what I bring to the table is slightly different to a creative filmmaker. I'm not saying I'm always right, as much as I'd like to say that, but it does mean we've got a very balanced approach in terms of how we manage a budget between the creative side and the commercial side of the business. My first film, The Apartment, cost about £900. It was a short film, and I learnt a lot on that film about managing a budget of that size, which is peanuts. But it did mean that I was more successful with the budget on my next film, The Musician, which was shot for just £350. Every film that we make makes a return. However that's done, I make sure it's done. Whether it's through the way that we exhibit the film, screen the film to the world, or whether it actually gets sold. My aim is to create a return on the investment that everybody makes into our films. The one thing I love about the way that I work is that I like to make magic happen with not a lot of cash. That's why the next film that we do, Ratcatcher, for just £15,000, the amount of ambition that I've got for this film is enormous. I know for a fact that distributors and sales agents are going to think that I've spent a lot more on producing this film.
One of the biggest compliments we had when we were at Cannes in 2013 was that the people that we spoke to, they couldn't believe how much we'd spent on the film. Most of the estimates that we had back for how much the budget of the film was for so much more than what we actually spent. And when we did actually tell them how much we'd spent, no one could quite believe it.
£15,000 seems like a lot of money, But when you think about the average film that you see in the cinema being between 20 million and 120 million, 15 grand is peanuts.
It's really important that we get these films made in a way that we feel that we're doing the story justice, but also in a way that they can be distributed, or that there's going to be a market for them after we've made them, because at the end of the day, filmmaking is all about the end product.
The money that we spend has to be seen in front of the lens. It needs to be seen on that end result. It also needs to be spent on things that we don't want to be making excuses for. After all, I can't follow this film around and say, excuse that and excuse this because I didn't have the budget to complete it. The money that we raise will ensure that this production is of outstanding quality, and we will certainly do that 15 grand justice.
One of the major problems with campaigns like this is the money's, once it's been given, there's no way of seeing where it goes. That's why one of the things that we wanted to do was do these production blogs to show exactly where the money was going. Obviously, we haven't got to the point where we're starting to spend the money yet, but we will be showing what we're doing with the money, and not just up to the end of the campaign, but continued on after the end of the campaign. And the majority of the money, like I said before, is not going to be spent on us or new kit for us or any of that kind of stuff. It's going to be spent on hiring people who can benefit the work that we are doing. At the end of the day, the most important thing is to get a film made of top-notch quality that we can go to distributors and say, this is what we have done, and to get that film distributed, and then hopefully be able to be in a position where we can go and try and make more films and start a career path for not just us, but for people that we work with.